Avaloren. It's a land shrouded by titanic lies, attacked by Odyn, defended by heretics. It could just be a future patch zone. But more than that, it's our first serious link to future expansion content on the back of Azeroth, something long speculated. And maybe even human druids. And finally, some Emerald Dream. The whole thing has sent us on a journey of discovery. We've been given a glimpse into Azeroth's ancient past, and what we found challenges, I would almost say, everything we thought we knew, but it was obviously a case where we knew we only knew so much. The good news is that what we're finding is actually really damn good. Much like the news that me and the team have got, as you know, The Pale Beyond, our video game, comes out tomorrow on the 24th of February. Hell, it may even be out for you right now because of how time works. And I'm really happy to say that, well, we've got a few 90 out of 100 / 9 out of 10s from the press, which has been crazy. We've got a few 8s, we've got a 7. Broadly speaking, we've actually had a really good critical response, and that is even with there being a few unfortunate bugs and quite a few typos in the press build, which was in, I think that was finished in December. So the actual build that you guys will be getting tomorrow on Steam, that has significantly fewer typos, hopefully as close to 0 as we were able to find. Yeah, turns out when you've got a 300,000 word script, that's a lot of words. But okay, Pale Beyond, it comes out tomorrow. But if you would like some content now, I've got 2 things for you. Number 1, you can check out me and Thomas doing our director's commentary of a big old slice of gameplay over in our studio channel. And also, we did, we're doing a documentary, the first episode, which basically covers the story that's been going on behind the scenes here. That, you know, I haven't really been able to share with you until now over the last few years. Well, we're cataloging that, and there will be more and more episodes over the next week and a bit. So yeah, really, it's a lot of stuff to celebrate the launch of The Pale Beyond, which is tomorrow. Yep, Friday, the 24th of February. That is when it all kicks off. And of course, if you would like to support us, then, well, if you do decide to purchase the game tomorrow, you will get a 10% off, there's a discount going for the launch. Obviously, leaving a review is really helpful as well, so be sure to leave an honest review after you've played the game. And yeah, I mean, hey man, you can check out the documentary too. It's a pretty crazy time. We finally got there, and it's only really been possible with your support. I'll be back with more words tomorrow, but till then, I think it's time to get to some pretty cool WoW lore. In our last 2 lore videos, we have done 2 big things, right? We've proven the existence of the back of Azeroth as a place that exists, a continent that may even be harboring a 5th old god. The other thing is we've set up the story of the human race in WoW and how vast swathes of the timeline that were just kind of muddy and missing are being filled in a way that seemingly is vastly improved. These 2 things together form today's mind-blowing video, the actual future direction of WoW's lore. Blizzard is building a whole new era of lore in the background, stuff that previously was just a massive gap of many thousands of years that we literally knew nothing about. And that's the thing, right now it is veiled by thousands of years of history and the judgment of our betters who thought maybe it would be inconvenient if we knew all of it. The key today is going to be figuring out what might be on Avaloren, where Avaloren is, and what it means for Azeroth's future. Which means for us, the next few expansions. Odyn, enraged, sent yet another expedition to, as he called it, that accursed land. The heretics of Avaloren had committed crimes against the Keepers and had to be brought to justice, but their defenses were underestimated and the expedition was destroyed, washing back up on the shore in pieces, with not a single survivor. Watcher Perethiles documented this disaster and implored Odyn to calm his wrath, warning that future expeditions would meet their doom like water against rock. This is stuff that we find in the dungeon of Uldaman, in the new vault that was recently discovered, right? We find these old Titan records of communications. They simply did not have the resources then to invade this new land. Now, I want you to think about that. Can you imagine the immense power that would be required to turn back the Titan armies? I mean, you've seen the various engines in Ulduar whenever you were leveling in Wrath of the Lich King, and the massive, just halls and halls of soldiers. Whatever these heretics are, they were strong enough to turn that kind of power back. Imagine how humiliated the very prideful Odyn must have felt with these 3 failed expeditions under his belt. He was the height of Titan authority. He was the prime designate of the Titan's rule. His word was law, at least at that time. And this all happened, right, before the Sundering. So Kalimdor was this one supercontinent, lorded over by one ruler, and that was Odyn. That means if the expeditions crash back onto the shores, Avaloren must be somewhere else. What we know of as the back of Azeroth. And you may have said, this has only been speculated, it doesn't have a firm grounding in the canon. Well, that is actually not the case. An ancient madman scribbling all over a lore book found in the Forbidden Reach in an upcoming patch questioned the Titan's rendition of history, something that has already been set up as being just a little bit sus over the years and rather explicitly in those new documents we found in Ulduman just 3 or 4 months ago. Now, this video examines those in more detail, but what you need to know is this. The book's notes mention lands that are, quote, beyond the waves. This is obviously implying that there is more to Azeroth than, well, what the Titans showed us or let us know about. And this book that said Beyond the Waves, that couldn't possibly be talking about Eastern Kingdoms because it was written at a time when the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, etc. were all one massive supercontinent. And yes, the Dragon Isles existed, but this book was written on the Dragon Isles. But the world map is pretty full, right? I mean, hit the M key, you'll see it. Where on earth could a new place go? And that's why it's very significant that they moved Kalimdor on the world map for this expansion. They made some space to the west. Now, maybe this is space for one new area. Maybe this is space for a button where you click on it and you see the other side of Azeroth, right? Who exactly knows? Now, it being somewhere that you go via the Veiled Sea will actually end up making sense. You see, this would have sounded like baseless speculation. You may have said, oh, but Michael, the story that ships that journeyed, west of west would not turn back, that was found in, I think it was the Lands of Mystery RPG sourcebook, and that's not canon. Well, I raise you the most recent PTR build. So, in the next patch, we already knew that the Irontide pirates and the Naga would arrive in the Forbidden Reach, basically trying to get that booty, right? They wanted a whole bunch of loot and learning. But it's not just that. The return of the Night Squall is what tips the scales, and get your eye patch and your peg leg at the ready because it is time for a tale of a night elf pirate who has raided the South Seas, stashed mountains of gold and Telebeam, and most importantly, set sail for the west and disappeared for years. Perhaps he is indeed the Euron Greyjoy, not the shitty show version, of this mythos, who knows? The book says, they say, that monsters and magic make the ocean impossible to cross, and that the Night Squall paid the ultimate price for his pride. But the author knows different. The Night Squall has returned. Whisper quiet about what he's found out there. Except that he has returned with ships full of treasures never seen before, and that a prize lies out there for him to claim. But first, he needs to build the largest pirate fleet the world has ever known. Our author then invites the Irontide, Bloodsail, Defias, and Freebooter alike to join the Night Squall and claim his ultimate prize. I don't know about you, but I think that's either Blizzard telling us what we've wanted to hear for literally years, like over a decade, about, back of Azeroth, and also that we could have some sort of pirate-filled seafaring invasion, which would be pretty cool, or maybe it's just a One Piece reference. But I kind of doubt it's just that. In all seriousness though, the Veiled and Forbidden Seas have always been the boundaries of everything we know in Azeroth, impenetrable barriers that have claimed countless voyages and kept us in the dark about what lies beyond. Even Odyn's vast fleets of Titanforged fell to whatever the hell is over there. Is it Odyn who keeps us ignorant of what is out there? Perhaps Odyn thinks we shouldn't go there because it's so dangerous? Or is the Veil a work of some form of force powerful enough to even fight off Titan armies? Well, let's dig into who we are sure is out there, and that is the heretics. So my prevailing theory is that in part they, right, these heretics are some form of rebel Titan forged, but I think they're probably protecting something. Peripheles called them heretics. Now, that means people who are going against the established religion, right, the established worldview. But here's the thing. The Titans were styled like a religion by none other than Odyn himself. So if you dare speak up against his cult, you would be labeled a heretic. He wanted to control everything about Azeroth's history, so distrustful, right, of mortals, you know. They didn't want us to know the truth because we had all of this free will and possibility. It made us strong, but also very dangerous. And according to him, the Titans arrived on a chaotic and miserable Azeroth, overrun by the Black Empire. With their bravery and determination then, these Titan Keepers, led by the likes of Odyn, defeated the Black Empire. Everything good in Azeroth, life, joy, beauty, happened after that. Sounds great, right? But in a way, is that just a revisionist history, right? Is it a rewrite of things, rather intentionally? To speak against the accepted account of history, then, would be heresy. And as we see in what is essentially tantamount to Odyn's leaked DMs to his mates, Odyn does say, listen, the advancements of the Black Empire, we ain't telling them shit about that. Because obviously, those in power want to control those with free will. It's a story old as time, and yes, it does apply to big arcane space robots. So, who then? We have a bit of an idea. Blizzard have been long setting up Tyr as the sort of good Titan Keeper, right? He's obviously shown himself to be very brave. He sacrificed his own life for the greater good. And then you've got Odyn. Odyn is really corrupted by his own hubris. And a lot of people I've noticed are saying, oh wow, even big, cool, badass Odyn is being destroyed by a completely crazy Blizzard. I will have you remember that Odyn's extremely horrific treatment of Helya, the thing that essentially grounds him in being a total dickhead, that was established in Legion. So this idea of Odyn only now being a bit of a dickhead is wholly false. You've got other failed Titan Keepers, of course, like Loken, who was corrupted by the old gods. So Tyr is seemingly the good guy, right? He's our man with the Titan Forged. So maybe, just maybe, there were other good Titan Keepers, other Titan Keepers who maybe liked us a bit more, who bore a love for us, what we represented, and our potential in the same way that Tyr clearly did bear a love for the Dragonflights. Perhaps one that would disagree with Odyn's lies. I mean, if you went against Odyn, who ruled all of Kalimdor, you would have nowhere to go. Or so we thought, until now. Avaloren sounds a lot like Avalon. Now, Avalon is a core feature of Arthurian myth from the British Isles. It is impossible to tell how much inspiration Blizzard will ultimately take here, but in myth it is painted as a sanctuary, a land of primordial nature, a land of apples where the Druids tended fields and the forests grew everything one could imagine, and life had no boundaries. That is Avalon. Life Unbound. You then think about one of the Titan Keepers, Aenar, the Lifebinder. I mean, she wouldn't particularly like that. She does like the power of life, but what does she do? She binds it, she harnesses it. Very much a wild patch that is fantastic for all of nature, for the insects, for the bees, versus a finely kept conservatory that perhaps a human may have. I mean, farmers, Lifebinders. Can there be an ecological impact? Yes. Now, I'm not saying that Blizzard has decided to go do a whole, climate change storyline in WoW. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But it's just the idea there that being a green thumb is something that can go in multiple directions. Now, specifically, the heretic crimes were against Inaria. So Inaria is a Titan Keeper that we actually haven't heard of, other than in this. Now, with her name, to be honest, to me, she does sound a little bit like she's one of Aenar's bunch, so maybe she would be life-binding. A green thumb of the Titans. Our heretics, then, must have been against how the Titans were caging and controlling life. Maybe they saw some of the experiments that the Titans did and thought they weren't particularly good. I mean, just look at Gahun. If the Titans were always going around experimenting with life, I mean, they obviously messed stuff up and created Gahun, the bizarre pseudo-old god bloodworm that we had to kill at the start of BFA. So perhaps these heretics did not like any of this, and maybe they escaped to the paradise of nature, maybe even bringing mortals with them. The crucial thing is that Odyn's edicts keep on hammering home that he did not trust mortals. It's everywhere in his edicts. Life is chaos, he said, and I suppose, yeah, I agree, just look at it. He even considered wiping all of the mortals out. So what Blizzard is setting up here is, in no uncertain terms, a bit of a, you could almost say life versus order. I think it is far more of a order controlling life to its own ends. Ysera handing off the reins of the Green Flight to Marithra. The new Night Elf tree perhaps being planted. We have the potential Cut Drust storyline in the Shadowlands. Maybe there was supposed to be more of it in BFA 2. We also have the lack of Emerald Dream content, despite that being something players have been begging for really for years to get. It's a major hint then as well in the Dreadlord book from the Shadowlands about the Force of Life, right? Remember what it says about life being, actually it's pretty damn insidious. I mean, in the same way that a weed, that a tree branch can crack concrete and grow in even the most implausible locations. I think it is all pointing towards Blizzard finally sending us down that rabbit hole, especially as Dragonflight is, under the surface, dealing with the evolution of life on Azeroth. Just look at the creatures you see in the Dragon Isles. They're these more primal versions of things that we kind of see elsewhere. Life really is the key here, and everywhere there is life, there will inevitably be the Emerald Dream, which also means druids. At the top of the video, I mentioned human druids. I was being deadly serious. Perethales knew the next expedition was doomed to fail, but he believed that Odyn would ultimately win out. He claimed that the heretics had an aggressive nature that would eventually lead to them turning on each other. So what does that sound like? Well, in WoW, quite a few races have warred internally, and most notably are, of course, the Trolls, the Vrykul, the Jarradine, and the Humans. And in our Timeline of Humanity video, we noticed a lot of similarity between the Jarradine and, of course, the Vrykul. One of those, the Jarradine, being from the Dragon Isles, the others, the Vrykul, being, of course, created by the Titans in their original forms of stone and steel. It made us then wonder, is there a connection here? Now, I want you to think about the bit of Dragonflight teasing that Khaz Algar was, that it was a place that where the Earthen basically evolved into dwarves, called it Khaz Algar, which sounds like how our dwarves name things, even though it was in a completely different, place in time and geography. And again, all of that stuff with Khaz Algar, that was set up in the lore books that we, of course, found within Uldaman. So, if evolution happens and it kind of follows a pattern at different times and different places, I think it's possible that whatever went to Avaloren ultimately ended up becoming human, or human-ish. We can't put all the details together, obviously, but it feels like Blizzard is fleshing a lot of this out. I mean, Jarradine are almost elemental Vrykul, humans are evolved Vrykul via the Curse of Flesh. Avalon itself is a part of Arthurian myth, which is claimed to have been created intentionally to give to the new humans, the Brits, a series of sort of stories that was their own. Before that, basically, they were a mix of like Celt, Anglo-Saxon, Roman, Norse, but I guess if you're to transport some of these ideas over, Avaloren then makes sense as a place that separates humans from their Vrykul and possibly Jarradine origins or lineage. It's a place of life and a place for humans. I don't know, human druids confirmed, but it actually doesn't end there. So do you remember New Avalon? We went there in Wrath of the Lich King. You've probably been there pretty recently because of Classic. It was a Scarlet Sanctuary that was constructed after the Third War, and it was essentially meant to be a fresh start for Lordaeron and a launch pad for the Scarlet Invasion on Northrend. It was destroyed by the Death Knights of Acheris just before they broke free of the Scourge. But if there's a new Avalon, then surely there must be an old Avalon. I mean, Obviously, it's just a name from Wrath of the Lich King, but most of the job of the lore team here is to pick up dangling threads that were purposefully left in the past to be expanded upon. That's often how the lore of these universes works. Now, the original humans of Warcraft were descended from the Dragon Slayer Vrykul, as we see in Wrath. They sort of de-evolved in a way. They decried the Titans and they fled. They searched for Tyr, who they trusted, and they ultimately found Tyr's fall and the legacy that Tyr left behind. Perhaps those early humans had heard legends of Avaloren, but like how Tirisfal, as in Tirisfal Glades, actually means Tyr's fall, as in the place where the Titan Keeper Tyr fell in battle, it became Avalon as time went on, those legends passed down. A great sanctuary, hounded by expeditions of a dark and brooding god of war in the form of Odyn. So when the Scarlet Crusade faced the darkest days of the Plaguelands, they built a new Avalon, a sanctuary against a dark and brooding god of death. It's a long shot, but I think Blizzard could make that work when you tie these pieces together. But there's one final piece, and that is our fifth old god. In the mythical city of Avaloren, there is a delicate balance between the forces of chaos and order. It's known as a city of balance, but at its core lies a dark secret, an evil god with unimaginable power imprisoned, and only the city's natural power keeps it at bay. Avaloren is actually from Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion series, but it did actually give us a bit of a crazy idea. There is no evidence of an old god in Avaloren, but Odyn had any reference of it stricken from history, so it must have been for a reason. What did Odyn not want us to discover? And then, as we've now learnt with our annotated book that re-canonized the fifth old god, something that had been retconned by Chronicles, so they actually retconned the retcon back to the way it was in Warcraft 3. And all of those scribbles in the margins, we keep on saying, what if it's a madman? It's almost certainly an Eltharion because it's from his own private collection. And in his margins, his scribbles in the margins of the Old God book, the history book, he says that the Old Gods have left a legacy beyond the waves of Kalimdor. Beyond the waves. Again, thinking about where that's, where that book was written, the time that it was written in, I think quite evidently there's something further away there that the Old Gods have had an impact on. Again, it's another kind of long shot, but imagine this. A fifth old god lies imprisoned in the city of Avaloren, kept asleep, or even, working with the crazy forces of life. Maybe they go in some way where it's a dark secret. Maybe it is there is no war in Ba Sing Se. Who exactly knows? Crazy, but again, it could be a hell of a place to visit. And it might not be that crazy, because old gods and the mortal races of Azeroth are deeply connected, and I think it would be a pretty cool story that Blizzard would love to tell. Plus, it would be a massive, hey everybody, look at all this new shit, which maybe is what the game needs. So, what does all of this actually mean to you? Takeaway 1, there might be humans that we've never met before on Avaloren. They may be deeply tied to life, maybe they're even going to be human druids. Takeaway 2, Avaloren, and this is I think one of the very concrete ones, Avaloren is either just a new island or hopefully it is the start of a more fully realized Back of Azeroth. Either way, it seems we're going to break our way through the Veiled Sea and have our own journey to the west. Takeaway 3, Blizzard are dropping serious hints that life is becoming extremely important in their eyes, which of course matches up with how the Emerald Dream and Ysera has been set up in Dragonflight. An expansion about life in Azeroth is perhaps coming up, or at the very least some serious content in and along those lines. And it won't just be the greens and full of dragons, it also can be about the mortal races, stuff that we truly care about. Takeaway 4, when we think of void, we think of light as its opposite, but Dragonflight and this lore is setting up a more deep connection between the old gods and life as we know it. Of course, order is tied to light, but perhaps the idea of life being tied to chaos is a sensible thing. It seems kind of intuitive to me. Entropy, evolution, all of this chaos is really the fundamental thing that happens as time, follows its arrow. In other words, possibility, void, these all do kind of make sense. That means upcoming content might deal with both nature stuff and old god stuff, which again feels like it makes sense to me. You think about nature, what do you think of? You think of a perfectly tended garden, you think of wildflowers, you think of a crazy, overgrown, creepy place, right? All of these fit within a conception of nature. This could really be us seeing a proper exploration of the Emerald Dream. I mean, look at the Emerald Dream anytime we went into it. You'll see all of these just telltale signs of the Titans. You know, these big sort of golem-y creatures. Well, what about the parts of the Emerald Dream that are untamed, right? That rather than a garden are wild. I would love to see that. I mean, hell, we've been promised a bit of a Void expansion by Steve. Maybe it's going to be an expansion that's not just Void, one that ties a bunch of things together. So there you go. I would put money on this being pretty major for the future of WoW, with some Void, with some Life. Specifically, we could be diving into the origin of the mortal races like Tauren, which was supposed to be dealt with in Shadowlands, but wasn't. Trolls, which Blizzard actually said we meet primordial trolls in the Dragon Isles. I don't know if that will end up being true. And of course, taking us to the back of Azeroth. The layers of lore that the team are putting down in the game here, with each patch revealing more and more of what we can expect, is actually starting to get seriously compelling. 10.1's announcement, therefore, could not come any sooner. But, folks, that is it for today. I hope you have found this to be a fascinating video. Remember, our game, The Pale Beyond, releases the 24th of February, and check out this video next, because if you love this one, you'll love it too.